A comment I saw on Facebook this morning from Brendan Burchard. I absolutely love him. Great guy, great inspiration. But being that we're talking about passion, or we've been talking about goals, this one just struck me. It was just right out there this morning, and it was a pretty strong statement coming from him. So I'm going to read that right now because I want to open with that. He has said that we've let ourselves be neutered of any real desire or grand ambitions for change by heeding the advice of the realists and the standard bearers of the status quo who tell us to set smart goals. But these types of attainable goals never spark the imagination or fire the will. We are now a culture flooded with goals and spreadsheets and work plans that inspire no heart, no drive, no courage. I say you want to change? Then do not, under any circumstances, allow yourself to settle on a vision or a calling or a change in any arena that is uninspiring. If you're going to have clarity on something in your life, make it something so big and bright and meaningful that you will get out of bed and chase it until you grasp it or die. Bring forth a desire that knows no safe boundaries and even scares you a little bit, that will demand all the best that is in you, that takes you out of your own orbit and into the stratosphere of the remarkable. That kind of change changes your life, and it changes the world. And he's written a new book called The Charge, and I have yet to read that. So
I haven't read that
after
either.
reading this, I really, really want to make sure I get that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was such an interesting and awesome statement that he made, especially in line with what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations recently, and I think the beginning of his comments are what, strike me first. I love the energy at the end, which is just strike out and just do it. I think that, some of the things that we've been chatting about is fear and the status quo, and that it takes someone, I think, perception-wise, extraordinary to be able to accomplish extraordinary things. And sometimes I don't think that we think we're that person.
Yeah.
And so the ability to really reach out there is difficult and may even be viewed, we've talked about, as a negative, to kind of be that forerunner and be out there for a lot of reasons. It changes your relationships. We've just been talking about that with other people. But I find the beginning very interesting because you and I talked about earlier about how, going back to my experience with older adults, about how a lot of people are attuned to, working the one corporate job and then retiring and then being able to go off that way. And it is a bit status quo, but it's what we've been reinforced with.
Right.
And so this is really a time, and we're I think, in an information age. We were also talking about this, is that information is available. The ability to promote and share has never been at a better time. And so I think we might be at a really good opportunity, a time in our lives where the opportunity to be able to be this visionary can really happen, and it doesn't have to be extraordinary necessarily.
Right.
So.
Well, and to get over our own perceptions and about how we think we're not that extraordinary person. We're all extraordinary. We all have something to bring to the table that's different from somebody else, because we all share a different perception and perspective of the world. So all of that shines through and comes through in everything that we do. We're going to appeal to people a little bit differently. There are a ton of people out there doing personal development, talking about, their area of specialty in it. They're all bringing something different to it. Not every single personal development expert out there agrees with my energy. I don't always perceive things the exact same way that they do, or the way that I'm hearing them. I think they're all saying something very similar, and they're all saying the same things, but their energy doesn't always appeal with mine, and they don't always resonate with me. So I find the ones that do, like Brendan Burchard is one that does.
Definitely.
Wayne Dyer, he's I feel like I know him, even though I don't, or I really want to.
Right.
He so resonates with my energy, and I follow his information and what he has to give, because spiritually that I can connect to that, and it just resonates with me on every level. So anyway, to that, what I'm saying is everybody is extraordinary in their own right, and they can bring something different. So it's getting over that self-image that we have, that perspective of ourselves, because it's just, that's our inner critic doing all the talking.
Absolutely. And I think examining, my own growth and taking a look and being able to work with other people one of the things that always strikes me is the academic part of me goes, where did that fear come from? Really where, because I grew up in a very affirming household, where it was try, grow, let's try this. As a matter of fact, I was always involved in being able to dabble in something. My family was very supportive of that. So I find it, from an academic standpoint, really interesting to think about where does this fear come from? And that colors my ability to look at what I would like to do in the future. And you and I have had, it kind of changes that tint on the glasses you're looking through into your future. And one of the, I think, very profound things that you and I talked about was that element of fear, and when you're daydreaming, and the daydreams really can be showing you some very important things about where you might want to go. My question to you was, sometimes I can't separate out that fear or that adrenaline rush of, is this really a good thing or is this not a bad thing? And you had started to discuss, fear being associated with excitement and fear being associated with no excitement. And that was very, very helpful for me. And
that equation, the equation that just so popped out of me. I hadn't really, I think about those things, but not in that equation that it just came out in our conversation. We had a great conversation the other day. Yeah, what you're referring to is what I started to do is, I'm a daydreamer. I've always been a daydreamer. I was, since I was a little girl, accused of being a daydreamer, by people who don't like to shake up the status quo, and they stick to their comfort zones. Interesting, that's how it feels. It's just this accusation. It shouldn't be something that's supposed to be perceived as a negative or hurt you or make you feel bad. We should rise above that and say, heck yeah, I'm a daydreamer. This is me creating something. I'm always creating something new, and I get these really cool opportunities as a result. But what we talked about was those equations. I wrote them down so I could precisely say this, but what I like to do is I use my emotions as my internal guidance system. People refer to that as their intuition. It definitely is my intuition. I believe myself to be a very intuitive person based on my emotions. I think that society or many people will say, they want to go through it in a logical sense. It's all up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say for myself, I need to get out of my head because I talk myself right out of things by staying up here. Being too cerebral about things. Nothing ever gets done for me if I'm up there, because that's my inner critic starts taking over. Well, who are you to do this? Are you capable of doing this? Well, really, where are you going to get the money to do this? And how is this going to... You'll talk yourself right out of everything.
Absolutely.
So I spend my time daydreaming, and I see these beautiful things and these beautiful places of where I want to go, things I want to do, who I want to meet, but most of all, what do I want to feel? What do I want to feel? And that goes back to the experience that we talked about before. What do I want to feel in my life? Because that, for me, is the ultimate goal. The sense of peace, the feeling of freedom, happiness, joy, to be loving and to receive love. I want to feel all those things. That's what my goal is. How I get there is a whole other thing. So it's my internal guidance system. I use that as I daydream, and we use the word daydream, but it's also what's important about those daydreams is we're being creative. We're saying, okay, this is what I would like to see happen in my life. Anything that you can put into your head and form a picture of, you absolutely can create, because you wouldn't be able to even conceive that thought if it didn't exist.
Yeah,
if
that's a very good point.
didn't exist.
Yeah, that's a very good point with the creativity. You're right. Once you give yourself the license to be able to do that, it's not necessarily that may be it may evolve. We've talked about how, when you're compiling things and thinking about things in your head and having those quote-unquote daydreams, is that, what your first interpretation may be of that thought and where it's going to take you. As you begin to be more open to things that might support that, you kind of find, oh, okay, this is kind of where it's going. And, and I struggle with that, in terms of taking that feeling, that intuitive feeling, and really giving it the credence that I should be giving it, which is not, oh, it's just me being anxious, or, oh, it's just me being whatever. Oh, it's just
then we become more cerebral about it. Now we're trying to analyze with our head, with our brain, what it is that our gut is, and what our emotions are really feeling. You can't, I don't think the two really go together all that. We can create negative emotions. We can create good emotions coming from the thoughts in our head.
Yeah.
Definitely. They control all of that. But our daydreams, if we could just get a picture and you do some pretending, so to speak, in your head of things which you want. And this is coming back to that equation I haven't gotten to.
Yeah.
But as you're doing the daydream, I think this is a really good tool to use. Pay attention to what you're feeling about it. If you're seeing yourself do something and you're trying to add to that picture, okay, well then this, I think I want this, and your gut kind of clinches, or you're not feeling a burst of excitement. You're not feeling any passion rise in you, and you've got this dull. Pay attention to that. It might not be exactly right.
Yeah.
We don't have to force the whole picture.
Right.
I really am trying to work on this myself, is to not force the whole picture, because that's me trying to figure out all the hows in between.
Right. Yes, I agree with you. I struggle with that.
Yeah, I really struggle, because I think that's what holds back so many of us, as we're trying to create these lives that we want, or this picture of what we want. We get caught up in how is this going to happen? So you start trying to piece a story together or a whole picture together, and pretty soon you're not feeling your passion anymore. We're not going to have all those answers. And that's something that I've had to learn to detach from. And Dr. Wayne Dyer has talked about this. He calls it detaching from the outcome. I can see an outcome because I can see where I want to go, but I can't see all that in between. Well, sometimes I have to detach from all of that. I have to just try to say, okay, let's just allow things to unfold and happen. And when we're in that state of allowing, which is like saying, okay, I let it go. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know how it's going to present itself. But in the meantime, I know I'm okay. I'm okay because I can always do this instead. And I have this skill that I could always use in the meantime. And that's not me giving up and saying I'm just going to accept this, because that never works for me either. But it's saying, okay, I'm going to hold that vision here. I see that and I could feel it. I'm going to go there in my place when I meditate, because that's a good place to be. It's a good feeling for me. And in the meantime, I'm going to trust and allow that. If I stay focused on that, then I start to notice all the other things, all the other opportunities that start to keep up. So detach from all those hows. So going back to that, sense that feeling. So there's the difference between the fears that you're talking about. So you start going, gosh, is this fear that,
economic calamity, financial calamity.
All the calamities that we make up and create in our own mind here. Does that fear in that picture also come with excitement? Or does that fear come with no excitement whatsoever? Maybe a clench in the gut. I think that's a good tool for me to use. That's what I use when I'm really in that moment of trying to create something in my own mind. Again, that daydream period. I really encourage people to take 5 minutes out of their day to just sit outside, wherever it may be. Find 5 quiet minutes to daydream.
Yeah, I agree with you, because even if you're not necessarily, I think there's so many good things about that, whether you are on a journey to be able to reinvent or discover or do something different, or even help other people do something different. Regardless, that's a great exercise in creativity. I think that ability to just daydream, whether it's with developing something or not, it really allows you freedom, and it allows you the ability to explore things, and that it's okay, because nobody can take that away from you.
Right.
It's a very personal thing. And so I think even the ability just to look at things differently, and, whether if you're out, you can do that. It's a great exercise.
That is a great exercise. Okay, we're going to go to break, and we'll come back to that. This is News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon, Authentically Speaking with Marni. We'll be right back.
Call Bad Boys Bail Bonds. Open 24/7, 365 days a year. Agents statewide and nationwide. We do 10% bonds for less. Call toll free 866-728